Hello everyone. We are here about almost evening time, and we're going to have a very special fun of speaking, and we're going to talk about freedom versus slavery. It's going to be some fun, and hopefully we learn new ideas that we didn't learn earlier. And I must say that I admire you, since you make an effort to come tonight after a hard day of slavery. So we're going to speak about freedom and slavery. Thank you all for coming. Okay, so yesterday I had the privilege to teach at the university, and one of the subjects that come up in my class, the class is called critical thinking, and my class have 34 students. Some of them are like have to do those classes, and some of them really wants to learn the subject, but all of them were in a sense no idea what's the difference between freedom and slavery. What does that mean, freedom and slavery? There is a concept that we're going to learn, and it's a concept that's used a lot in many subjects. One, it's called fact, or F, and the other one, it's called value. What's the difference between fact and value? The subject of freedom versus slavery is the idea that many times we are in a stage in our lives that we feel that we don't have our freedom, that we are not really doing the thing that we like to do. But by the same token, we've conceptualized an idea of slavery in such a way that it's not necessarily correct. So first and foremost, I would like to do a little process that it's called a process of enculturation. What does that mean? I'm not using a big word. This is a proper word that they use in every academic school, and it's the idea that the background of the person, the value that the person came in, influences him in such a level that leads him to make such a decision that many times are inaccurate or not based on fact. Here are several examples. Let's talk about math. Do you agree with me that math is fact? Or some of you may feel that math is a value. What's the difference between study philosophy or study math? Help me.
Fact is an absolute. It is something which is proven. It is something that can be substantiated, that does not have an opinion behind it.
Excellent. Thank you, Gil. Now, with that saying, I'm going to share with you a midrash, a famous rabbinic writing, and with that midrash, we try to analyze if that's a value or a fact. The midrash tells us, a famous midrash, say that before we are born, what happened? Help me. There's an angel by the name of Laila. You remember that midrash? We studied when we are little kids. And what happened to us? You remember? You know? Okay. So it's a famous midrash. Let me find the midrash. The midrash said, what did the midrash said? You can put it. The midrash said clearly that before a person's born, there is an angel by the name of Laila.
I think he wants to.
And that angel teaching us the entire Torah. And then there is a little, now you remember this? And then is a little something here that punch. And we, all our lives, what happened to us? We're in the progress of regression. We're just getting back. It's like transmigration, reincarnation of ourselves throughout the process of learning the entire lives. That you never heard it?
No.
First time, good enough. It's worth it to come here just to learn that.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So is that a midrash is a value or is a fact?
Value.
Excellent. It's simple. It's a value. Now, here we go to a sensitive area. When it's come to faith, when it's come to religion. I stood before my class and I asked my students, I have 34 students in the class last night, and I said to them, how many of you believe that Muhammad is a prophet? I have 2 hands. I asked them, how many people of you believe that Jesus is God? I have 18 students. I asked them, how many of you believe in Hinduism? 2 students. Buddhism? 1 student. Judaism? No one. And the rest, I asked, is anyone atheist? No. So what happened, all the others? No clue. But here is the point that we get a little bit touchy. One student from Ghana stood up and said, wait a second, guys. If you say that he is God, then how come he was born and he crucified? How that can be God? And I said, before you go further with this emotional discussion, let's go to our subject, which is the inculturation, meaning the way that the person was born. Because if you're born in India, you have your mindset. If you're born in Iran, you have your own mindset. And if you're born in England, the United States, you're thinking differently. So therefore, the whole idea of faith group is a fact or is a value?
Value.
It's value. So because it's a value, it's so emotionally sensitive to people, because it cannot be a fact for simple reason. In order for something to be a fact, it has to be unanimously agreeable. As long as it's not unanimously agreeable, it cannot be a fact. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, so let's use some examples. I'm going to use the first example. If you recognize that example, tell me. I'm going to make a little chart. Mike, can you set up the camera so you can see the chart?
It is.
It is? Awesome.
Perfect.
Very good. How many boxes we have here?
5.
5.
Excellent. Let's make another 5. 1,
Another
2. Now we have 5 by 5.
Okay.
Let's pick a number. Just pick a number. 67. Okay? And we put at the center number 1. Can anyone help me with this? Any idea what's going to happen with this chart? Let's start.
Might be that you need to add up to 67 like a Sudoku puzzle.
That's what I was.
Okay, let's try it.
Not me, I'm not good at math.
I don't think so.
I don't do math.
Let's count. How much is it?
29, 39,
68.
67.
There's a
67.
Ah,
How much should be here?
17, 22, 25, 46.
No, let's go up.
7 minus 11. You can do. There's a lot of things. Yeah.
How much is it?
We're going to assume it's 67. 31. 47,
Now help me these 2 boxes.
47, and
4.
Could be anything. I mean,
this is my.
Now can you fill up the rest?
Oh, it can't be anything because it has to go across. All right.
18, 30, 36,
I think he has it.
Can you do this?
36.
Yes.
What is it?
30,
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 26.
Okay. Let's go around. 25 plus 4 plus 10 plus 11 plus 17 is
67.
excellent. 17 plus 5 plus 3 plus 23 plus 9.
67.
Are we sure?
9, 3, 24, 16, 15.
67.
15, 2, 19, 6, 25.
67.
Now, you think we end our game? No.
No.
Tell me where else you see 67. Here? Let's think together.
Bepinot?
Can try.
See, 25 and 12 is 37, 38, 48, 58, and 9 is 67. On the
Excellent.
diagonal.
You get this. Very good, Gil. What else?
Yay!
What else? We have more.
We have to
The
assume
other
that
way
on the other
also.
diagonal it works as well.
איך אתה זוכר את הכל זה?
What else? What else?
Right, 17
The other
and
diagonal up.
26 is
Yeah.
43,
Bottom left to upper right.
44, 52, and 15 is 67.
67 on the
Which
other
is
On the
what?
other diagonal. From 17 to 26 to 1 to 8 to 15. Going from your upper right
17?
to
Yes.
your lower left.
You're right. What
It is
else?
67.
אבל גם כשאמרת...
I'm not done. What else?
בפינה,
four
בפינה, כל
corners.
פינה.
How? Good, good, good.
25,
5 and 15
57,
is
So she
40,
does like
49, and 17 is 67.
Okay, so what is it?
17 and then 25.
17.
And your
It's
top
easier to
left,
do
okay, is going to be
40 plus.
42. And 9 is 51. Or 52, excuse me.
The
And
corners.
then your 15 makes 67.
You think I'm done or I'm not done?
6, 5.
What else we have?
Okay, let's see. 20, 32,
A box of 4.
Which
Ah.
one? Which one?
25. Oh, well. Is it 25?
No, that doesn't
Okay,
work,
that
no.
one doesn't do it.
No.
20, 23.
That was a good
The
try.
second line across, is that 4 under the 25? What number?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a 4.
The second line across is 67.
Which one?
Going
4,
across.
12,
Oh, yeah, all the
27,
lines
8, and
across.
16.
Yeah, all the
We
lines
already
across.
know
Very good. What else?
They're all-
Well, the 10, 18, 1, 14, 24, all of those cross.
They all go.
All the
Okay.
vertical.
All of them are
All the
67.
columns and all the rows.
Right. And then
Do you
all the
think I'm
rows going
done?
Up and down.
Up and down?
All the rows going up and down are 67.
What else?
What we were looking for is perhaps boxes where the 16, 19, 2, 8, 27, and 12.
What
That
else? We
makes
have another one here
67.
hiding. Another one.
I was thinking in the center, but that doesn't work.
No. Okay. Are you ready?
Sure.
Yes?
Absolutely.
How much is this?
10 and 12,
10,
22,
20, 30,
41,
41.
41.
41. How
Okay.
much we need more?
26.
How much?
26.
27.
Oh,
Sneaky.
sneaky.
Right?
Okay.
So
works.
the point is, what we try to prove here in this magic math, we try to prove to you that there is a fact. You see what's going on? You cannot play with 2 plus 1 equal 3. Cannot say 2 plus 1 equal 5. It equal 3. So all these numbers, wherever you go in any angle, you end up by this one. Now, you may say, okay, he is playing here games, right? But soon I'll show you that it's not a game, it's really a fact. When it's come to math, it's something that is undebatable. Everyone agrees. Now, since I'm talking to Jewish family crowd, therefore we deal with the Torah. And in the Torah we are told the story of slavery, the story of being in Egypt, the famous story of Abraham and his family and Egypt and slavery, etc., etc. Anyone knows, with all these values that we have from our Torah, is anything from that text or from that concept has any factual, realistic meaning that we can point to it as a fact? Anyone have any idea?
Jerusalem is a city.
Excellent. Jerusalem is a city. That's nice. It's not in the Torah, it's in the Tanakh. That's very good. Very, very good. What else?
There is a cave where Abraham is buried. It talks in Genesis about his purchasing the cave,
The land.
and that he buried his wife Sarah there, and that he is buried there, and that is a fact. It is a place that you can actually physically go and visit.
Okay.
So that's
good.
fact.
But again, it's a debate. Who exactly will bury them? We believe that it's our ancestors.
What about Rebecca's grave by the road? Isn't there a marker
Rachel.
there? I mean, Rachel's.
Rachel, the Muslim and us agree that that's the Rachel tomb. Correct.
Okay. So that would be a fact.
No.
No,
Because they
and Leslie's
still
right.
don't know the
It's a value because
But they
some people in the world chose. I give you an example.
So unless we do a DNA study, it cannot be a fact.
For example, in Israel, there is a gravesite that many believe that is the Dan, son of Yaakov. Dan was buried. There is another site that they said Dan burial. Two different sites. Who is right? We don't know yet. The idea is it's value because it's still not unanimous. There are certain things that about unanimous. There are certain things. One of them, yes.
Well, I don't think unanimity is what you can base fact on, because you can go back hundreds of years and things that were believed to be true and everybody believed them to be true, we now know are not true at all. So they
Excellent.
weren't facts, they were just values that lots of people share.
Excellent. So what Leslie said, it's a values that many people share, and the more people who share certain values, the more we have the tendency to believe as a fact, even it's still not under the category of fact. Math, for our discussion, is a fact. Math is a science, in that sense, is an absolute science that no one disputes. It's like, now it's still daytime outside. Is anyone in the world in a regular mental state of mind said that it's not a day now? No. So even if the other part of the world it's dark, yet everyone agrees that in the state of Maryland, here at this time, it's a day. So that's a fact. Okay? Now, in order for us to be out of slavery, we need to understand the concept of slavery. The idea of slavery, it's not a fact, it's a value. It's a mindset. What does that mean? We have this famous saying, the story of ancient Egypt, the story of Pharaoh, Ramses, several Pharaoh, is a disputation, what, etc. happened. But it's all ideas. Ideas that getting to the point that more and more people believe there is a country by the name of Egypt, there are pyramids there, there are all kind of ancient evidence, there are some archaeological evidence that speak about them being very, very superstitious. The whole idea of, if you look, for example, in ancient writing and ancient history, you see how they mark character in those tablets, like this character and this character, and all different character in the ancient Akkadians writing that expresses kingdom, that expresses ruler. All the ancient Egypt, it's in a sense not just discovery, something that it's more and more get as a factual. Since there is a country by the name of Egypt, there are pyramids, there are architectural evidence. The big question left: who are the real ancient Hebrews? What exactly the story of the Ramses and the first and the second? What exactly happened to ancient Hebrews? Why they build those pyramids? How you take it? But the concept of slavery, they all agree that it was a period that the Egyptians ruled the world and they have slaves that work for them. We, meaning the people of the Torah, say that that's applied to us, to our ancestors. Many other fellow Christians said it's true. Others may say that it's applied to something else, but the key point is it was a period of slavery, it was in ancient Egypt. That's all fact. The only question left is, we are gathered together every Shabbat as a traditional Jews, and we read a Torah portion, and now we need to analyze in our thought, in our thinking, what exactly happened to us. And now we are going a little higher in our level of understanding, what exactly happened to us every week, every Shabbat. So with that in mind, I would like to travel with you to a special era of the 12th century. It was a great book by the name of Kuzari. Anyone heard that name? Okay. Kuzari in Hebrew is Kaf Vav Zayin Reish Hey. I try to transliterate it. Kuzari. It's come from the word Kuzar. It's a place, according to some, in Russia, but it's not clear. Some say that it's fiction, many said it's non-fiction, but regardless, it's written by a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Yehuda Halevi.
Yes.
And in that book, Kuzari, he tried to describe the moment of revelation as a factual. What does that mean? Since we have about billion point something of Christians that believe in revelation, since we have more than billion people that believe that Muhammad and his prophecy is a consequence of the ancient Bible, the Hebrew ancient Bible, and therefore there is a consequences, which means they believe in the revelation. So we enter the domain that about 3 billion people to this very day in 2013 believe in that concept called revelation. We said as Jews that it was a time that we received the Torah, the time that we ascend, our leader ascend, and receive the Torah. That's point of revelation. Not everyone follow exact process that we hold, but there is a several point that getting close to the fact, which is we have first and foremost the idea that too many people were there. In other words, if you talk to someone who's believing other faith group, they tell you, I believe that it was a man by the name of so-and-so did so-and-so in a certain time. We said it was about 3 million people witnesses the revelation, which means in Judaism we hold some type of moment of revelation that witnesses according to our tradition by many, not by one person that see God, not by one entity over one event, but we are talking about millions of people that come about. But another thing that reaching close to the idea of factual, and that's the idea that the Kuzari pointed out, and he said, we don't have the temple, we don't have the Beit HaMikdash. So how will be able to be out of our slavery? How will be able to reach a point of freedom? And he said, we are granted of moment of revelation every Shabbat. What does that mean? Anybody have an idea? I'm on a camera? Mm-hmm. Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. What's the idea? Every Shabbat, we open the ark. Is that a moment of revelation?
Yes.
Yes or no? If you tell me that the Torah is divine, it is a moment of revelation. So, the Kuzari said, therefore, we have the chance to experience a spiritual moment of revelation by opening the Torah every Shabbat. Furthermore, he said, by having a person ascend to the Torah, which we call in our language Aliyah, he is basically ascends to Mount Sinai, ascend to the Torah, and opened the ancient text, and he is basically in a moment of revelation, while everybody else witnessing to that special moment. Furthermore, the Kuzari said, and I must give a word of introduction before I explain this point, the whole concept of prophecy by Maimonides and everyone else in Judaism is very different than others. This topic is not about prophecy, I'm just saying it as a side note.
Right.
What exactly the idea of prophecy in Judaism applied to? In one word, who is a prophet? In the entire Tanakh, what's the prophet? Give me ideas. What is a prophet? What is a prophecy?
Somebody who has an idea about
Idea.
how something will come about.
That he was inspired, that he was
Based
by
upon-
himself, by heaven,
Or a spokesperson.
spokesperson.
For something divine.
something divine,
Or
have a clairvoyance, ability to see the future, correct?
Okay.
By the Tanakh, everyone agrees that that's not a Jewish prophet. A Jewish prophet, by definition, is only one word: teacher.
right.
Period. And therefore, you see some of the prophecy come true, some not, because the moment you teach people and they follow that path, then is no need to punish, or is no need to have any bad outcome. The prophet, in a sense, is a person that tells people, okay, here son, don't cross the street this way. You don't listen, guess what's happening? Remember a week ago, someone crossed that street and was hit by a car? It's going to happen to you if you're going to cross the street that way. That methodology of teaching. So in a sense, the prophets are people who inspire, but you read in the Bible, many prophets are not a good people or great people. Some of them yes, some of them no. It was a false prophet, it was many charlatans, but in general, the definition of prophet is a teacher. Teacher that learn the word of God and teach others. By teaching others, he or she, because there are many prophetesses too, are able to tell you the outcome. It's not that telling you the outcome because, like Moses, that he heard the word of God, like a prophet of the prophets. It's because that's the methodology of teaching. With that in mind, the Kuzari said that when you come to a synagogue and the Torah is open and you hear the moment of revelation, then you hear the word of prophecy by whom?
Oh.
By whom?
What we read in the Haftorah? What do you mean?
You're getting close. By whom?
The person reading.
By the rabbi.
By the rabbi, yeah.
Right? Whoever is the teacher, whoever give a sermon, whoever teach us the practical application of the Torah portion, he is basically taking the message of the Lord, the divine message, and he tried to tell us what this has to do in our lives.
Right.
Okay? So in that sense, it's all values. But in the mindset of us, since we believe in a revelation, we're getting very close to our factual. What does that mean, factual? That this prophet, this teacher who tells us, do A, B, C, and D, E will happen. So that's the idea of prophecy and freedom and slavery. Furthermore, they tell us that part of the idea of slavery is the way that we look upon ourselves. What does that mean? There is a concept that we learn many times. It's called Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid, which means to tell us that we have to get a feeling that God is with us all the time. How you get that feeling? Now we're going again, the next step. Think about the concept which Plato called the ex nihilo. Meaning, we all agreed, this is a fact, we agreed, at least in this group, that there is God. Does anyone disagree with this statement? So for us, it's a fact that there is God. Okay? Meaning, that God is, in a sense, pre-existed God. Which means, God did not create himself by himself, he is everything. Correct? Okay. Since he is pre-existed, then we are his creature who created from his image for certain missions, a certain period of time, from point A to point B, and that's it. That's ex nihilo theory, everyone agrees. With that in mind, therefore, we are basically small part, it's called in Ivrit, chelek elokam imal. We are basically part of God. And since we are part of God, therefore we have to ask God all the time, which is ourselves in that sense, to get our godly part, how we'll be able to understand God better, because, and that's very important, they tell us, in order to reach freedom, first and foremost, we have to have which call self-evaluation. Meaning, we need to reach a point within ourselves to understand why we are here. And as long as we reach a point of understanding God, the Maimonides, the Rambam said, The highest level, when we talk about world to come, we talk afterlife. What does that mean, afterlife? What is Olam Haba? The Rambam, who's a great philosopher and physician, tells us Olam Haba meaning we don't have a body limitations, we understand God better. We understand the world better, that's the highest level of joy. Meaning, in order to reach Olam Haba here, we have to reach God here. Meaning, we have to be able to understand ourselves. And in that sense, we can have the freedom. Does everyone understand what I try to say? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, how in reality we reach that freedom? Let's go again to Plato. Plato tells us, famous theory, that age of 8 is the basic age that we have the foundation of our values. And he holds that when we reach 40 and we reach 80, those values remain. Which means whatever penetrates in our heart and mind at the age of 8, Plato said, stay with us at the age of 40, and we use those values and principles when we are 80 as well. So with that in mind, nothing basically changed with ourselves in a sense of values. What really changed is the circumstance. But as long as we hold those principles, we are basically have the square mindset. We have our misgeret, our framework. Now, if that is correct, then the concept of being free, it's easy. Why? Because as long as we are in a state of mind of understanding that we don't know what's happened tomorrow, maybe we'll not wake up, God forbid. Maybe things turn around different direction tomorrow, either way. So therefore, we should ask ourselves all the time why we are here, what we are doing here. Is that clear? Let's go further because we're running out of time. I have a lot of materials I want to cover. Hopefully we'll cover it soon. So you remember we played a game of numbers. You remember that?
Yeah.
And it was a nice game and it was some fun, right? It's a nice game, yeah. Let me, just a second, let me give it to you. Okay. This part you can put here. This is what we said so far, and what we are saying is that we have in our times the slavery, which is the inhabitations, the fears, the habits, the prejudice, the limitation, the selfishness, the laziness, indifference, narcissism, all of that, inflated egos, it's all related to slavery. And the opposite, the freedom, is the self-actualization, the humility, the self-esteem, positive, confidence, etc. How we reach that point? So first, let's deal with the concept which called Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. What does that mean, Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara?
Evil
inclination and good inclination.
Right.
What is the evil inclination? What is the good inclination? Now, here we're dealing with, in a sense, fact or values. When we're talking about evil inclination and good inclination, we talk about facts or values. Everyone said that it's a values. How about if we agree that we are created with a certain desires, for example? It's those desires that the person has. Someone have a desire for, let's say, for wine. He was born with that. He get crazy when he see a bottle of wine. Is that something that we are born with, or something that just happened by some circumstance?
No, that you're getting into the nature versus nurture
Correct.
kind of ideas here.
Correct.
Whereas whether we consider our environment as being what creates us,
Correct.
or whether we allow ourselves to create our environment.
Which means
that
when we are born, very nice girl, when we are born, we basically, as a fact, we hold in every philosophy, in every thought, in every religion, that we are born with two existing conflict entities.
Our warring
You can call it names. You can call it yin and yang. You can call it evil and good inclination. You can call it animal soul and godly soul. You can any name you want, evil and good. But the point is the way that
Those behaviors are in us all.
human created, they have those tendencies like love, hate,
Right.
jealousy, etc. It's all related to those. So that's a fact. It's not a something that relate to values. It's something that we are born. Our goal is with our basic value to use that fact for good.
Right.
But the reality is people are born with desires. People are born with love, hate. That's the way the world created. That's the way human created by the higher being, whatever you call it. Now, with that in mind, we have to ask ourselves, there is a concept, we don't have much time, but I assume you heard that concept. It's called tikkun. You heard the word tikkun?
Yes.
Okay. What is the idea of tikkun? What's the philosophy of tikkun?
That we have to repair the world.
We have to repair the world. Meaning, the world that created, let's paint it. We have here an artist, so we have to use some painting. Let's say this is the world. Okay? This is the world, and this is me. Okay? So I'm not starting up with you. That's me. Okay? That's me. In the world. That world created by higher being. Okay? We call it God. Is God part of this?
No.
Not in that diagram.
It means that God is detached? It's transcendental, or it's part?
If you say that God created the world, then he is not only part of it, it is because of his existence that everything else exists.
So it means that this is relevant or not?
Absolutely relevant.
Which means this is a detached or attached?
Attached.
So if it's attached, then it's not existent. Because this is part of this. It's called in Ivrit, ממלא כל עלמין, מסבב כל עלמין, which means God is wrapping out the world, creating it,
Right.
and living there, inside the world.
I believe that.
So, me, meaning every entity, it's small part of God, while everything is God. So it's not separate entities. Well, if that's correct, if that's the fact, we need to go the next step. The next step is, since I'm part of God, we are living, as Anne said, in a shattered world, which means the world is not the way that it should be. It's not the Garden of Eden, right? We have issue of gun control, right? It's a lot of issue in the world, right? So there is a concept that people needs to repair the world. So how me, meaning that person, be able to do tikkun, to repair the world? So there are different methodology of repairing. There is repairing by halakha, there is a repairing by Kabbalah, there is a repairing by the Torah. There's many ways of repairing the world. Okay, actions. People can tell you a lot of ideas of repairing the world. But in order to repair the world, we have to create within this world another world. You see this world? What is this world? Is what Carl Jung called me and myself, and me as part of the world. It's the famous concept of duality. So since I'm in myself in the mirror, which means I'm part of my world, and my world cannot be detached from the whole world, so therefore any action I'm doing in my world influences the entire world. That's called tikkun, for good or bad. Tikkun is supposed to be repair. So as long as my world is not in a stage of repair, so the whole world cannot be in a stage of repair. Is that clear?
Okay?
Okay? So if I need to repair my world, I need to do something in my own life, in my own world, to make it better, and in that sense the whole world will be better. But if I cannot see myself, and I cannot find the right way to repair my world, what should I do? We just talk about revelation, right? In Judaism we have what you call rabbis. Did you ever heard that word?
I'm sorry, say again?
Rabbis. What the rabbi is supposed to do?
Teach.
Teach. So the rabbi, I need to go to the rabbi and tell him, look, can you tell me in which way I'll be able to repair the world? And his job is to direct me. Maybe I need to do something to someone else or to myself, and by doing so I'm repairing the world. You get the point? Is that clear? Okay. So that's part of which we call a point of freedom. Now, I must say that this concept is not only Judaism. It's a concept that applies to many, many religions, and so you see an example. Now, you remember we talked about the rabbi, and we said that the rabbi is like a teacher, prophet, whatever you call it. In Buddhism, for example, half of the life of a person is in search for a spiritual leader. Meaning, as long as you don't find your mentor, you still not reach the stage of Mahayana, which means the highest level. Only when you reach your spiritual mentor and he lifted you up, then you start reaching the highest being. In Judaism, there is a very similar concept in Hasidut, in the teaching of Kabbalah and Hasidut, that hold that you have the Hasidic Rebbe. You heard that concept?
Yeah.
That's painting nicely, right?
The girl.
Right? I'm not a painter, I am a professional, I cannot fight this, but I try to do payas a little bit. And beard, okay?
Okay.
Now, everyone else go to the Rebbe. Everybody. Why do they need to go to the Rebbe? It's because he is the link that teaches us, direct us to God. The Lithuanian, the Misnagdim, those who oppose the Hasidim, they said, oh, that's almost Catholicism, right? But the Hasidim that hold that way, they hold the Rebbe is like a teacher. He is in a higher sphere in a sense. He's not supposed to be materialistic. And therefore, in a very similar to the concept in Buddhism in that sense, the Rebbe is the director that help us reaching our highest level of freedom. So we need that Rebbe in order to reach those levels. That's part of being free.
But isn't it different in Buddhism? They're looking, like in Hasidut, you're born into your family and you're told that's your Rebbe.
Correct.
So there's not the freedom. I get the feeling in Buddhism, every person goes out and seeks out that person that's going to represent that for themselves.
Correct.
So it's very different.
Yes and no. It's very different in a sense of knowledge, in sense of learning. In Hasidut, for example, they said the Rebbe is not just another fellow, he's a person who learned for many years, he's a person who have this type of lineage, etc. And he can lead us to another level. Not everyone agree with that. It's value, it's not a fact. But it's important to understand how it works in that system. That the Hasidic Rebbe is like leader. In Buddhism, in that sense, they are in search of leadership. Do you know how many people in the world to this very day are in a tremendous search? They go to India, they go to those places, they're dying to find a spiritual leader that lead them in the right way. It's amazing. But it's all come from the concept of slavery. A person is a slave for himself, by himself, to his own mindset. Meaning, person having his mind that he needs to do something in order to achieve, for example, he wants to achieve a career, or achieve wealth, or achieve whatever it is, and in order to reach that slavery, he became a slave of himself. And for that sense, you need a Hasidic Rebbe, or you need a spiritual leader to pull you out of that slavery. That's the concept. Let's go further because we're running out of time. And I just want to give you 2 or 3 more points because I cannot run everything. Let me... these several points of slavery. You can put it here, yes. First one is the idea of understanding what is really a darkness, what is a idea of depression, of sadness. We do not have enough time to understand what is the source of depression. But basically in Hasidut, for example, the teaching of Reb Nachman of Breslov, the teaching of Baal Shem Tov, and many more, It's is no such a thing, sadness or depression. It's all from the point of misconception of the purpose of person's life. The minute he understands that he's on mission, there is no such a thing, sadness. The other side is the idea of freedom. The idea of freedom is the understanding of mind, body, and soul harmony, the self-control, the idea of accepting the responsibility, meaning like the story of Jonah, the story of Moses, is all these biblical story that tells us over people, is the nature of people that tried to run away from the mission, and God was after them and said, you can't do it, you have to stick in your mission. The idea of love of life, love of God, the growth, the idea of challenges help me grow, the whole idea of getting closer to my mission, to my goal by having those challenges. The challenges was for good. And then the next one is the concept which we call emunah, meaning faith. Faith meaning not only by myself, but faith that God is with me. For example, taking David, even the worst moment in his life, he always replayed all those moments that God was with him. And he was the man, the good example, the paragon of sadness, of crisis, of losing wars. Yet he always overcome by having this type of self-encouragement from himself, by himself. Because you can find friend, you can find a teacher, a leader, someone to cheer you up, but that will be a little aspirin. The person needs to know that he needs to encourage himself by himself, from himself. And one of the things that is called hashgacha pratit. What is hashgacha pratit? Meaning to understand that there is a divine providence who is with me all the time. Like the word bashert, or the word in Hebrew gamzu letova. Even things that turn around and looks bad, they have a positive meaning. Not always we understand right away. So all of our discussion apply to so many things. I'm just give you the abbreviation to ourselves, to our family, community, work, health, hobby, home, and much more. Love to animals. And we discuss as an example of our value, which is the prayer, the weekly study, the tehillim, saying psalm. All of that is fulfillment of our divine mission and life. Now, in conclusion, I want to speak about our attitude and our success in our attitude. And that's something that we have to adopt. I'll call it the concept that I can do it. What does that mean, I can do it? I can do it meaning that as long as I understand that I am a free person,
Okay, Mike.
thank you. As long as I understand that I am a free person, that I should be so happy of what I have, I should dance all day long. I should be the most happiest person in the world. Because the reality, we believe that nothing happened to us by coincidence. And if God put me in certain challenges, it means that the Almighty, in our sense, in anthropomorphic sense, in the human language sense, God knows that I can handle that challenge. So as long as I know it in my heart, I am able to overcome those challenges. But it's very important to understand all the time that if we understand the enculturation, if we understand what we said earlier, that it's related to the concept how we see ourselves, how we see our society, how we brought up to this world, what exactly happened to our situation. If we replay all the past event, you see that there is a lot of room for happiness in our lives. And that's the idea of being out of Egypt. Being out of a personal Egypt that the rabbis tell us so much is the concept of freedom. We are free. We are free as community, as individual. The only question is how we take this freedom. And sometimes the way that we take the freedom is in such a way that not bring us anything. In a sense, King David tells us in numerous places that God will bring you high and higher as long as you know that it's God. I give you a small example. As you know, I have the privilege and the tremendous zchut, married, to teach every morning, early in the morning. So I walk in this building, and it's 5:45 in the morning, and I see a gorgeous, beautiful sanctuary. Sometimes, if it's before Yom Tov, etc., it's fully lit in sanctuary. And I strongly believe, after 11 years here, that it's one of the beauties sanctuary in the world, in my view. So you walk in. Now let's think together with me. What a person thinking. Average person will say, oh, look at this. The architectural engineer is gorgeous. Look at this. Several donors put together the money and make such a very gorgeous, beautiful sanctuary. You know what I said when I see the sanctuary? We said this line, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Israel. I said, God, thank you for giving us such a sanctuary. Oh, I praise God for giving us sanctuary, which means I don't see it as a human, as people. People are just a little toy. It's God. I'm thanking God for the sanctuary. The moment you do that and you praise God all the time, then you reach the real freedom, because God, in our language, sees that you can go the next level and the next level. As long as you are in that state of mind of constantly thanking God, even for the moment that looks a tremendous hardship, and every one of us, including myself, go sometimes in our life to hardship, to difficult moment. But as long as we understand that this is what God wants me to do now, I have to do my very best to overcome that challenge. God is here with me, and God brought me here, and let's go backward and think where I am X amount of years ago and where I am now, and always replay God's greatness in your mind. How do you say? If you praise, you'll be raised. If you praise God, He'll raise you up. I think that's the message of freedom. Any question? I talk too long tonight.
No, but it was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Push the button.
Good message.
Any question? Now you're not taping you.